Alright, so now we're in the left half of the family tree. And we saw earlier that a trapezoid has one pair of parallel sides, right? And the parallel sides are going to be called bases. Those are the things that are parallel. The legs are going to be the slanted side sometimes. Sometimes we have some that are not, right? And the base angles are going to be down here and also up there because there's two bases, the top base and the bottom base. Sometimes we'll call it the small base and the big base. All right, now this theorem says that if we have an isosceles trapezoid, so go back to the first lesson we talked about, an isosceles trapezoid has two legs that are congruent to each other, then this will have very similar properties to an isosceles triangle, which is the base angles are congruent. So this angle and this angle will be congruent, this angle and this angle are congruent. And we'll see later that these two angles are going to be supplementary as well. Right? So if we look here, if this is a base angle, so this base angle has to be the same, which is 70. And then we know that these two angles, because we have two parallel lines in a line, these are consecutive angles, and consecutive angles are supplementary. The other word we used is same side interior in the course, but we tend to see consecutive angles come up more now. So these two angles would be 110 degrees. All right, over here, it says the trapezoid is isosceles, so these two sides are the same, which means these two angles are the same, right? And then these two angles here are gonna be consecutive with this. So although the picture looks kind of strange the way it is, this is how the math works out. Okay. Now, we have properties of diagonals for kites and isosceles trapezoids. So the isosceles trapezoid diagonals are congruent. Right? And the diagonals of a kite are perpendicular. So we've seen diagonals of a rhombus are perpendicular and diagonals of a kite are perpendicular. Diagonals of a rectangle are congruent and diagonals of an isosceles trapezoid are congruent. Not all trapezoids, just an isosceles trapezoid. All right, so we can use these properties to then find out what's going on. So the first thing we look at is the shape, and then we're looking at what's given. So we have a kite and diagonals, and we know that the intersection of diagonals is 90 degrees. So we know angle 1 is 90, which means this is going to be 90. Now in a kite, another property is these two angles get bisected. So the two congruent sides, right, the diagonal that splits the two congruent sides is going to bisect the angle. So this would be 46 as well. So when we have these two, we can figure out the third angle by using
there it is.
triangle angle sum.